Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is Donovan. And today I have a special guest. Dan Negroni is a hyper-growth CEO and bold impact coach who guides companies in bridging the gap between managers and their millennial workforce and creating the next-gen workforce culture to increase employee engagement, productivity, and profits. He's got this amazing list of accolades: serial entrepreneur, experienced business leader, attorney, master coach for CEOs and millennials. He is a top 100 leadership speaker for Inc. and an Amazon best-selling author. Please welcome Dan. Thanks for joining us today.
Wow, I sound a lot cooler when you say it than I really am.
Yeah, you sound pretty cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I'd love to hear a little about your story and kind of how you got into all these different ventures and what you're up to these days.
I always start by saying to people, my story is my least favorite story because it's about me and I'm so interested in others. So anytime someone asks me to tell my story, I usually turn it on them and say, well, tell me about yourself so I can contextualize my story. I will just say this and make it as short as possible. I've had the opportunity and been grateful enough to be a lawyer, to be an attorney, to be a business guy, an entrepreneur, to grow a $1 billion company, to have 4,000 employees, all gratitude for all that. And I'm a dad and a husband for, I think it's over 30 years, and a dad for close to 30 years of 3 great kids. And I'm just a poor kid that grew up in the South Bronx, believe it or not, and always wanted to maximize and empower people to be their best. And so I did all the corporate stuff. I did what my mom wanted me to do. I became a lawyer. I worked hard, got out of the streets, kind of made some money, made some success. And then about 5 years ago, I said, I really want to help people in a different way. I think I can empower them to be themselves with all the tools I've learned along the way to help and interconnect people. And I hate no, and I hate being told no, and I hate when people say no to themselves. I kind of love mindset, love growth mindset. And that's what drove me to be a coach, to write a book. I love to speak about it. I love to be with audiences. I love to be with people. I love to connect and help people connect. So 2020 has totally sucked for me, but that's my story, give or take.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah, it definitely must be different to have no speaking or live speaking engagement.
It's so interesting. My wife said, so, all right, it's the end of the year. 2020 was really tough for coaches, I think, especially coaches that had to facilitate workshops and were used to doing people in-person things and speaking engagements. So that was a large part of our business. And really being with people was a large part of our business. Now, we also have Zoom fatigue and have done a lot remotely and have learned that and have talked to people about how to create engaged cultures through remote workplaces, which is possible. But I will say generally, when you're in the people business and your business is traveling, it hasn't been a fun year. But been a year of lots of lessons and lots of learning for myself and for all my clients, and just looking forward to applying them next year in a increasingly better place.
So on that topic, it sounds like you have kind of this business around, and I did a little bit of research around kind of helping people connect or get more engagement or things like that. Could you give like a couple sentence overview on like what it is that you generally work on and the kinds of programs you have?
Yeah, we are coaches principally. I mean, we have a point of view and we have an expertise in generational differences in the workplace and how to connect people. But really, we're coaches on how to connect people be better. And we, our business was comprised of 3 things: speaking engagements, coaching with annual coaching retainer engagements for teams and for individuals, and then consulting or workshops, facilitated workshops. And so we do those 3 things for all size companies, from entrepreneurial companies up to companies with 26,000 people workforces. And we love it. And really, the crux of it is, how do you help people be their best performer that they can? And how do you empower them to shift their own behavior to maximize the benefit for others? And really, that's the crux of it. How are you making everyone else in your life the hero of your story, right? We call it hero makers. How are you a hero maker? Because as Zig Ziglar said, if you want to have everything in the world, then just get everyone else you touch what they want.
Mm.
And it's that simple. And so our principles, they're a little bit deeper. We have a system. We have an online system called Huga. We're happy to give it out to listeners now. We were testing it. Actually, it's now being sold, and it's really helps people dial in on themselves and how to create great performance through, learning how to articulate their value and their stories to others by making others, the audience, the hero. That's what we do in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah. So it sounds like you have a pretty robust suite of offerings and kind of things at different levels, right? Like if I am an individual who's going, oh, you know what, I want to get a little bit more of a mindset built around this, I can come in and get some help. And it sounds like you also do a lot of bigger corporate level work. I mean, big or small businesses, but more than just individuals.
Yes.
Does that cover it?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, we help individuals. We help corporations for their individual leaders and for their teams and for their entire organization from a culture perspective. So we don't really distinguish. We have 6 coaches here. Some people prefer younger, people in their career, people in career transition. Some people prefer, how do I move, to the ultimate level of leadership, which is, running a team or a $30 million or a $20 million or a $2 million business. How do I engage a new team? I come into an organization, everyone's new, and I'm the leader. What now? How do I bring everyone together? We have a system. Our system does that. Basically, the premise of the system is focus on the power of relationships. The first relationship you focus is on yourself. In order to be able to help others, you have to have a really good grip of yourself. So we go through a process where we teach people their strengths and their stories, their values, skills, and passions, and how to communicate that to someone. Because if you can't communicate that to someone, and some people say, oh, I don't like to talk about myself, I'm really shy. Well, if you can't clearly delineate the value you want to provide for others or what you need from them, you're screwed. And there's a technical term for you there. And if you really want to connect with others, which, right, is the number one skill in the world, no matter what age you are, is learning how to build relationships. And so by understanding the relationship with yourself and going through that while others go through that for themselves and being able to comment on them, you learn to coach yourself on how to create relationships. And that creation of relationships with this other focus wins every time. 100% money back guarantee.
Definitely. We hugely value the importance of a relationship with yourself first and foremost. But I'm just curious, how would that merge with another human being or individual or manager type position?
Yeah. So let me, because I'm a coach and I'm a lawyer, I'm just going to push right back on you. Sorry. How do you think that works? I'm going to just coach right here and now. Permission to coach?
Sure.
How do you think that works?
Well,
intuitively, you're a doctor.
Yes.
Right? You know this stuff. How do you think it works?
I would say, if people are actually authentic about communicating, their purpose and their value and what it is that they want to provide. And as long as the manager position is open and receptive to understanding, what drives this individual, they would actually trying to understand and create a role that is in alignment with what they value.
Absolutely.
And what they create.
So look, you said it better than me. Look at that. And I didn't have to speak, which thank God, because if I have to speak the whole interview, I'm going to not enjoy it. But yeah, you're exactly right. Is you have to, the thing about understanding yourself and understanding that you want to connect with others and that it's important is you ask yourself all the time, and I did 4 coaching sessions today where I asked the primary question, what's in it for the audience? Because how are most people are focused, right? Survival
Yeah.
on what's in it for me, with them, we call it. And so we try and teach everyone to ask the first question, which is, what's in it for them? Because if everyone's thinking, hey, yo, what about me? What do I do? What's in it for me? Right? How am I going to get my $600 check? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Whatever it is, people are usually focused on themselves. And so if you, as the storyteller, really want to make a hero out of your audience, then why don't you just spend 1 second thinking about what's in it for them? And if you don't know, what do you think you could do to figure out what's in it for them? What could you do, Donovan?
For my audience, in which regard? Maybe the show?
You didn't know what was in it for them. You didn't understand kind of where they were coming from. What's a simple tool that you could ask them to figure out what's in it for them or what they wanted from you?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, I feel like for me, at least in the way that I frame building out relationships, is I try to get a more full picture of what this person, not only what they want, but also some of the things that they're like dealing with or working through or
Right,
whatever
so
else,
you
right? It's not just,
love that.
I don't know, because go ahead.
No, I love that. I'm just trying to find a simple answer to share with the audience and show them how simple it is. What would you do to figure that out if you didn't know that?
I mean, just ask, right?
Just ask. Oh my God, like a really complex thing. You
Yeah.
just ask them. So, right, you want to know what your audience wants. It's like I asked you when you first came in the interview, how can I serve you? What's the best way to serve your audience? If I don't know, I ask. And once I ask that and you tell me, well, then I can deliver it. But if I don't know it, I got almost zero chance of guessing what you might want. So if you want to bridge the gap and you're an old folk and you don't know what the young folk want, right? Or if you're one race, one religion, one sex, one gender, you don't know what the other person wants, there's a simple tool. How can I serve you? Right? What's the best way to help you? What's the best way to provide you knowledge? So it's really, really simple, but you'd be shocked at how difficult it is to apply. And all of us that have lives and patients and jobs, we know because we have real lives. Relationships are messy, dirty, smelly, hard.
Yeah,
because we all get in our own way because we make these things called assumptions, and you know what that happens when you do that. Or what do you think is the primary mistake that most people make about understanding what others want?
Take a random crack at it. Either thinking, like you said, either just making an assumption and going off of, okay, or I guess this is related and sort of the same thing, but kind of thinking like, oh, this is what I want, so this is what you would want.
Exactly. They follow the golden rule, which is everyone wants to be treated the way I want to be treated. And how do you think that works? If any of us, you guys have relationships, friends, family, significant others, well, you know that works for Jack, right? Like my wife, I'm got a big personality, I got a big mouth. She doesn't want any of that nonsense, right? She wants to do it her way. So if I follow the golden rule and treat her the way I want to be treated, I'm a strikeout every time. It only took me 27 years into a 30+ year marriage to figure out if I follow the platinum rule, which is I treat people the way they want to be treated. And as Donovan told us, the best way to figure out what that is if we don't know, oh my God, we ask them, right? So look, the stuff we teach is not rocket scientists, but again, it's a pure and simple roadmap if you can apply it in your personal and professional life to creating value for others, which is what it's about.
Yeah, I see that. It's hugely valuable. I would be curious though, for an employee that doesn't feel safe or scared to express all that she wants. Do you feel like the employer should be the one, or the manager needs to open up that space initially, or how would that work?
No, I love that as a point. So, right, like there are 3 things in the workplace that people want: safety, belonging, and becoming. Right? We want to feel safe. We want to know that people have our back, that they're not gossiping about us, that they're for our promotion or for us collaborating or for our alignment. They care about us. We want to belong to a tribe or a team. We want to feel we're human beings. That's how we congregate, right? We want to really belong. And then we want to become, because no one wants to do anything forever without growing or learning or becoming better. That's a human being. right? It's just the three things we want. And your question to me, Dr. Alice, is, well, isn't it the employer's responsibility to make sure that happens? And what do you think the answer to that question is?
I'd say yes.
You'd say yes, and you'd be partially right.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes and no, because at the end of the day, you know this from what you practice, who's the only person we can control?
True, ourselves.
So if I want a better relationship with my boss, do I wait for my boss to have that better relationship with me and come around, maybe slip articles under their desk or tell the HR fairy, right, that they should be nice to me? No. If I want a better relationship with my boss, I change myself.
Right.
So I learn how to ask better questions. I learn how to change and evolve to create that better relationship with my boss. And I try every which way to learn to push myself to grow until I can't try anymore, because then I've done everything I need to do to figure out how to help my audience. And so here's the challenge when you get into organizations. Relationships are bidirectional, right? So positional authority means something, but not much. I mean, you know that from some of the companies we work at that are more evolved. Positional authority is fine, but also if you are authentic and honest and ask things in the right way, whether you get the right answer or not, companies that say that they live that brand should live it. And so we teach each of the employees at both end to be open. Creating great next generation leaders is not just about making millennials or Gen Zs better in the workplace. Although all the training I'm talking about, if we would have taught in high school and grade school and college and graduate school and coding school or law school would be better for everyone, even the old people haven't learned it and they're set in their ways. And so next generation leaders are leaders that have a growth mindset that want to change. And so how do you do it in the workplace? You got to get both sides on board and create alignment. What do you guys think is the most important thing towards creating alignment? What do you think?
I would say probably having some sort of a guiding principle or vision or value underneath that is shared. Because if you don't have that, that core piece, it's going to be really hard to navigate kind of the tactics if that high level isn't aligned.
Yeah, and that is alignment. And you're right? Having a shared vision, right? And then being able to understand and explain and communicate that vision, and then having the tools to actually apply it. And in the middle, creating this emotional connection that everyone wants that vision. The most important thing that you can do when you're creating alignment, pre-alignment, or concurrently with alignment is trust. And so how do you earn someone's trust? By usually being authentic and real and sharing and caring about them, right? Following the platinum rule. So again, none of this stuff is complex. They're simple rules to how to communicate with people, we have a process of how to do communication. We have a process of how to tell your story and a system, and they're quite simple. And they're always based on what you can do to help the other person. The challenge is we're all built as, what about me? What about me? So in Dr. Alice, in your view, the question about, well, what does the employer have to do? Well, they have to do things for sure.
Yeah.
And probably the best thing that they have to do is listen. Right? Audiences just want to be heard. If you listen to your employees, they'll tell you what they need around that shared vision. So again, not rocket science, not always easy to remember because we're human beings, but totally worthwhile. And, most people will call it gobbledygook soft stuff. But, the soft stuff is where people connect. People connect here. They don't connect here. I mean, sometimes, right? We like people that are smart if we're really quick and we can respond. Yeah, we like people, but people really connect and like people because they're smiling, because they cared, because they asked questions, because they served them in some way.
Yeah, and just to color that a little bit, I can say from my own experience, having had different managers, the ones where our initial meetings are set up in a way that's, okay, you need to do this, 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 and this, goodbye. Those experiences are not developed well. They don't start with trust. So it's hard to build trust after that because it's kind of this feeling of like, oh, this is what this person wants out of me. There's no space for me to share what it is I like, care about, or want to do. On the flip side, in the meetings that I've gone into that I've got a new manager or whatever, and it starts with, okay, what is it that you're looking to do or accomplish? Like, yes, we're going to talk about the responsibilities, and I'm going to tell you kind of what I expect, but also what do you need and what are you trying to get? Those, intro relationships have opened up a ton of space and trust to kind of develop a greater relationship. And, it's not like a one-off lost cause, right? Where like, if the initial meeting wasn't good, it's gone forever, no way to build trust. But I found personally that makes a huge difference in just how that relationship develops.
Yeah. And so, Donovan, I'm going to push back on you too, because it's not fair just to push back on Dr. Alice. And so I love the fact that you said that too. And yeah, life would be great if everyone was a great manager. But what's the young person's responsibility in getting what they need from that particular manager that was your manager in example at 1 or A, which is, the person that didn't care. So it'd be like, boy, I'd really love to help you. And here's how I work best. And I would love to support and do all those things for you. What do you need from me? Well, I just need you to do your job. Okay, I understand that, but if there's any other way I can serve you, I'd love to be able to help, right? And how gutsy and kind of would it be to say something like that? It would take a lot, but it probably would put them back on their heels in a very different way, because you would politely be saying, hey, I would like a little bit more than that. And so, the problem is, let me just be clear with you, most managers suck. Another technical term, right? And why do they suck? They suck because oh, my New York accent just came out there for a minute. They suck because they are not other focused, and they're just giving, right? In your first example, it was just giving you the stuff and saying, go do it. Now, while some engineers might like to be spoken to that, most of us don't, right? And so the question is, what are you going to do as the recipient to change the nature of the relationship? It's a bold question, but if you don't learn that one, you're probably going to have a harder time becoming the leader you want to be. And 2, you're going to go around assuming, if you only had great leaders, that that's the way it is, but yet there could be half the company suffering under, the other style. So all I'm saying is we all have responsibility.
Yeah, and I definitely, there's been, periods of time where things were different, right? Very, very early in my career, when I had a manager like that, I was just like, I don't know what to do. This sucks. Like, bummer. I'm just, going to have a bad time. But like you were saying, over time, I've developed like a better tool set for things like, okay, I've had some managers that are pretty rough around the edges, or like not very soft. And even they will make time if you ask them for time to have some sort of.
Be shocked. Most really tough to reach people, the more authentic you are and the deeper you go with questions, they fold pretty quickly because they're human beings. Most of them will fold quickly. So again, another indication that I can control my own relationships and destiny. If I don't give power to the negativity and I continue to give my positive mindset to who I want to be and how I want to help, well, I get to continue to retain myself, or I can usurp all my power, give it back to that manager, and be miserable. What sounds better?
Right.
Yeah.
Someone who's I've been on both sides of the coin of.
You've been a horrible manager?
No, hopefully not, but I've been an employee. I've worked, I've had a lot of bosses, a lot of odd jobs over my years that I've worked, but and I just actually brought on a new doctor in my practice this summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I really wanted to like do things better than the bosses I've ever had. And that was also asking the questions of like, how can I serve you, and what it is that you're looking for. And even though I'm, relatively, actually, I mean, I was an employer back way back in my earlier businesses. Once I got out of med school, I had hired a massage therapist to join my practice because I was a massage therapist. And I thought my clients would like move over to her so I could build my naturopathic business. What ended
Right.
up happening, my clients didn't want to leave me. So I
Ah,
was like stressed out trying to grow my own naturopathic business and then her massage practice. So I was like in this mindset, I never want to have an employee ever again. It's too stressful.
yeah,
But with a lot of personal development, mindset training and
yeah.
shifting, I really got how limiting that was for myself. And I really see myself as a leader now as someone, I don't know all the answers. And I tell her that 100% of the time that I don't have everything figured out, but I'm committed to learning and figuring it out and listening. And yeah, she's still with me. So I think that's a
That's
good,
awesome.
good sign. And we got like clear with some like difficult conversations where I think with other managers or bosses, she might have been uncomfortable sharing about.
Yeah.
But I was like intent on creating a space for her to be able to open up about, what she wants, even if it's like not working here forever or just starting her own business. And it's like, that's okay. I would support that. But,
And that's a really right. So you showed probably what I believe is the most important characteristic of a leader. What did you do there? What quality were you showing? If you don't leave here, if let's just figure this out. And if it's not for you, it's not for you.
yeah,
I'm okay with that. What were you showing there?
yeah, I think it was just not having the expectation that, you're betraying me if you leave or anything like that, that I want her best interests at heart. And she knows what's best for her. And maybe that's not staying with me
Yeah.
forever, but I'll provide the growth that she wants or serve her as
So
well or best as I can.
I'm going to label that. Not that I'm a labeler,
Yeah.
but
What would you label that?
that and your ability to admit that you didn't know everything and you're willing to learn and grow with her is just vulnerability.
Yeah.
And as leaders, we show vulnerability. We usually get loyalty and purpose and
Mhm.
support because human beings are vulnerable because it allows for a very empathetic relationship where the
Yeah.
person says, wow, that's kind of how I was thinking. If she could admit that to me and she's the doctor,
Mhm.
that's super cool. I feel good. And so, right again, it goes kind of that heart stuff instead of that brain stuff. And I think, Donovan, we were talking about happiness before. And, these are all these little clues that are so simple, yet as grown-ass adults, we
Mhm.
find so difficult to practice, myself included. I mean, I'm a pro on the stage. I'm a pro coaching people. And in my personal life, you can ask my family, I suck too, that technical term there.
Yeah.
I mean, because I also struggle with my own triggers and my own upbringing and my own challenges. And now, am I better now than I was in my 40s and in my 30s and in my 20s? Absolutely. Now that I'm an old boomer, as you guys were calling me before. But I still struggle with it. But
Mm.
what do you think about when leaders struggle with it, yet they understand it, that awareness, that could just it changes everything for they call it creating followership. Can
Mhm.
Dan create followership? Well, if I put it all out there and I'm vulnerable and I allow people to be heard and
Mhm.
share, even if I make a difficult decision about all of them,
Mhm.
I can create followership. And we all can. We all have it in it if we know our story, if
Mhm.
we know what our audience wants, and
Mhm.
if we're comfortable sharing that and trying to create trust.
Right. Yeah.
That really resonates with me. Going back a couple steps, I was briefly a horrible manager for some people. Um,
Oh,
Oh, we
yeah.
were both.
So the situation more or less was that a number of people were out of the office for whatever reason, maternity leave, somebody quit, yada yada yada. Somehow, I found myself as the person like in charge of this team with no prior experience as my first time, and I kind of did that what we talked about earlier, that like, okay, here's what you need to do, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do this. And after a week or two, pretty quickly I realized like, okay, nobody seems that excited, nobody seems like they care about any of this. I just have to like ask the rest of my teammates because I was in the acting role, not actually like promoted into that role.
right.
So I had to ask them, like, okay, listen, I'm trying to do my best. I don't think it's going very well because nobody seems to like what's happening. I just need help from you guys to know like what it is that I need to do to make this work.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky that like who knows how that little nugget of mindset got into me, as opposed to just being like, you guys not only are not doing it right, but you're having a bad attitude, like this other path that I could have gone down. But after that, I got all this feedback of just like, your stereotypical not good manager of just like, you're just cracking the whip. You're just telling us what to do. You're not asking us anything. You're not helping us with anything. You're just saying, do this. And I feel like that was a really valuable lesson, even though I'm not directly a manager at the moment. I don't have a team. It was helpful for me to see both sides of this equation that we've kind of been talking about. I see the side of like, oh, you can try to be doing your best as a manager and just not know the pieces, not know the tactics to kind of get buy-in. And from the other side, like how valuable it can be to put yourself in a position to give your manager some ideas, some feedback, and stuff like that. So I'm just like very happy that I had that experience. And I also think it what you've been talking about the whole time really resonates and maps onto that experience for me.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what you said is written in a bunch of books from some big company that shall remain nameless. But the question that the managers ask their staff is, what am I doing now that's working for you? What am I doing now that you would like me to change or do more of? And then what am I not doing that I need to do? Right. And so those are deep questions, and they could be answered, you're doing nothing, kind of, you suck as a manager. And I think the biggest challenge in difficult conversations, as you mentioned, another book, Dr. Alice, is that people really have a hard time being honest with other people. And sometimes culturally, I know I did a lot of work in Asia too, they don't, people do not want to say something negative, especially if there's a hierarchy. And then, sometimes there's a gender issue, whatever it is, right? There are all these issues that stay in people's heads where they don't want to raise it. And so we tend to coach on a very clear and concise way to help people share those feelings, right? Through gratitude. It's called GPS. We call it gratitude, permission, shared experience. So you share gratitude first. You then ask for permission in a multitude of ways to tell how you feel. And you can ask for it in very many ways, but that kind of a Jedi mind trick, because it not only gets people to listen more, but it shifts control to empower the listener to really say no if they choose. And most times they won't say no. And that giving respect or the permission when you ask it, and you can ask it in a multitude of ways, and then describing your challenge or the situation in a way that's judgment free. And it's just, hey, here's how I experienced this. It could all be me. Maybe I just had a trigger and I experienced it the wrong way. So when you teach people how to communicate in a way that sets them free, it's much easier to be able to have those, we'll call it difficult, let's call it real conversations, because they really shouldn't be difficult. They're just real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's so impactful. More than people realize how just feeling heard and understood can make such a difference for the employee experience. And that, I again, like I've worked so many jobs in my life, and I get that no job is perfectly have everything figured out. Like I get there's, that people are human and not everything's like worked out as magically as it could be, but as long as they're committed to growth and being open to feedback, I don't expect them to take all my suggestions all the time. Not always realistic, but for them to like hear it and to like hear me and get me, that goes a long way.
Yeah, and think about it. We talked about what's needed in the workplace: safety, belonging, and becoming. Okay, well, when you hear someone, you've created safety.
Yeah.
Usually created belonging because you've said, I care enough to listen. And then hopefully it's the seed of becoming or learning or changing or communicating better. So there's growth there. And, those are what employees need. And now that we're remote and virtual and the crazy year that everyone's had, it's even more important to be able to do those things. and to trade in them and navigate it. And the truth is, the younger you are, the earlier we can teach it. I don't know why colleges don't teach it. I mean,
Good.
you
Yeah.
teach all this rote bullshit, right? They have to learn geometry and
Mhm.
calculus and philosophy. Well, philosophy probably would help in this, but really ridiculous core courses instead of, okay, how do I interact with people and communicate?
Yeah.
Wow, imagine if people got a degree, and even communication majors don't, you know, I don't think they practice this simple stuff, which is why we could start a company 5 years ago and woof, imagine we've trained 20,000 people because there's just such a thirst. And I think the more technical we get,
Mm.
the more we need, the more people are going to make a difference, and the more the quality of the people you work for will matter. And I think some of the tech companies understand that. Some of the other companies are starting to understand it. Um, it's just, we're human, and that's the biggest difference we have to create engagement and trust and performance in the workplace.
Yeah, and building onto that with the college piece, I studied psych undergrad, and when I got out, I was like, oh, cool, I know how people work. I can engage with people. I can self-regulate. And then, a year or two later, I was in dire straits, basically on all metrics of like personal happiness, relationships, like all this stuff was messed up. And I was like, what in the world is going on? I studied this stuff.
Yeah.
But, in retrospect, what I studied was kind of the mechanics
The theory
of the mind. And like you were saying, there's no one really in college that you get these skills for the most part. At least that wasn't any part of my experience. And I had to go outside and start reading books and taking courses and doing all this other stuff to get these really basic fundamental skills that have produced like well-being across the number of ranges. And it's crazy to me.
I know, it's crazy. Well, thank God for YouTube. I mean,
Right.
there's lots of crazy panderers out there, saying do this and buy this snake oil. But then there are people like you, each of you, that are, trying to make a difference in the world, trying to help people find their voice and their purpose and the ability to serve themselves and others. And, I think eventually people find the right way. At least I'm an optimist about that. And, I'm hoping that hopefully some colleges will start to teach this. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you understood your story before you graduated so you could go on an interview and then share it in a way that delivered value, that was meaningful, and then start your job and know how to? I think it's 65% of HR professionals, maybe it's even higher, 80. I forgot the quote. I haven't given a talk in a long time, so I apologize. I'm rusty. But, don't believe that college graduates have the requisite social skills to make it in the workplace. Well, shame on us as a society, right? Just shame on us. Okay, we haven't learned it in the home because very hard to learn from your parents, as we all know, right? All that family nonsense going on in there. And just hard to learn it in school. And it's not what we're graded on. Boy, wouldn't it be great if we were graded on how well we could connect with others and understand differing views and bridge the gap, and or have a diverse collaboration discussion where we could accept ideas from all different people of all different backgrounds, because we know science tells us better decisions are made accordingly. It just, well, I hope for a world that we can do more of that.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Well, Dan, it's been such a pleasure to have you on our show. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up today?
I'm not a big plugger,
Okay.
of those things. I mean, they can reach us at www.launchbox365.com, which is our business. I have a speaking page, my name, www.dannegroni.com. I'll give you people can text me. I mean, we want to help people be better and perform better. 858-344-5811. Our coaches all here give a free consultation, and our goal is to make people better and make the world a better place with no bullshit. Do you know what I mean? With real simple principles. Like, you want to get better, as I pushed both of you in this call, you don't wait for your boss to change, you change. You want tools and tips on how to change? We have this little thing called the internet. There are lots of tips and tools that you can gravitate to. There are lots of crazy folks like me giving their phone numbers that will help you. And there's lots of podcasts and other things like what you do. Go get it. Like, go
Yeah.
get it.
Lots of resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll link all of that in the description below. So check Dan out and his website and what he's up to. And again, thank you, Dan, so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
That was fun.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.